Hey y'all, welcome to Running from 40. And today I would like to discuss why we run. And to do that, I'm going to give you a little bit of background about myself and why I run, and then see if I can invite you along on a journey where we travel together, try to help each other out, and maybe gain a little better sense on what we're actually endeavoring to do. So, I was always interested in sports. I competed in a lot of sports growing up, but I never really put everything into it. And I guess I think because of that, there was some regret. Not like I'm sitting at the bar talking about how we could have made it to state, but more so just this desire that I would have tried harder, that I would have worked harder, that I would have had more discipline as a younger person. And I think a lot of that came from as I went through that decade from my 30s to my 40s, I started to become interested in human optimization. I started to become interested in why we do the things we do and how we can do those things better. And I think it was really on that journey that all of a sudden I found myself arriving at 40 and and having, I guess you could call it this regret that I never did more, especially I suppose in the realm of fitness and athletics. And and so again, it wasn't this sort of regret that made me extremely depressed or despondent, but nevertheless, it was there. And I guess I started running without any real purpose behind it. I sort of on this journey of better health, wanting to just feel better overall. I started to consider my footwear more, started getting into a more minimalist shoe. And so for my 40th birthday, I was gifted a pair of zero, you know, barefoot style shoes. My birthday's in January, and so I did not start running right away, and I actually put it off for about 6 months. Again, it was just more of this nebulous idea that I should be running. I think maybe for me it was that I saw it as a part of my overall health. I saw that I was lacking in my cardio. I knew how to get stronger. I knew how to be in decent overall shape, especially probably in comparison to a lot of the peers I was surrounded with in work and whatnot. But I never really took it seriously, and I never really had this deeper than superficial desire to run. So anyway, got the shoes. It's 6 months later, and I kind of think, well, maybe I should start running. I've never done much running in the past. I've ran for the sports I was involved in. I've ran a few 5Ks. Nothing amazing. No real sense on how to run or how to train. And so, with that in mind, I just start running, and I get injured right away, and it seems to be about as miserable as I remember it being when I was younger. And but I'm thankful I didn't stop. I would say I was helped out in the form of some inspiration and then in the form of just practical helps. So I was watching a podcast. It was actually Rich Roll's podcast, and he was sharing his story. And here he was, this guy who turned 40, and he had some athletic background. He was a collegiate swimmer, but at 40 years old, he's a lawyer. He's overweight. He's an alcoholic, and he had this epiphany. He's trying to walk the stairs, and he has to stop, double over, and catch his breath. And he realized that he needed to change. And what's cool about that is he didn't just get in good shape or get more healthy, which would have been in and of itself maybe enough. It would have been awesome. But he actually went on to achieve results in triathlon that I don't think most people would have thought were possible. I guess what I've learned is cool about running is, if I realize, hey, I wish I would have done more, and I decided, well, maybe I should pick up basketball or or football or some other sport. I think it's pretty obvious that those are young man's games. But what I've discovered with running, and Rich was the first one to sort of inspire me in this way, is that you can pick it up at an older age and you don't just have an opportunity to get healthier, which again in and of itself is a great aim, but you can actually do well. And I kind of do, looking back, remember this, that in those few 5Ks I did, I remember seeing these guys that were 20 years older than me who were crushing it. So again, there was this regret, there was this inspiration, and I think that regret that led to desire, the desire to actually achieve something, and the hope that, in the realm of running, it's still possible. And I don't mean I'm going to win the Boston Marathon or qualify for the Olympics, but I started to think about these possible goals. Like, oh, I can run maybe I can aim to run a sub 20-minute 5K. Maybe I can run a marathon. At that point, I had no idea what a good marathon time was. But as I've had more exposure, I think, well, maybe I can qualify for the Boston Marathon. Maybe someday I can run a sub 3 hour marathon. And there were these goals materializing that were exciting. I I also saw the benefits of my own health, both my physical and my mental health. Um, Honestly, my blood pressure, I've always looked like I'm relatively fit, but my blood pressure as an adult has never been good. It's always been like at least 120 something over high 80s or mid 90s, something on the bottom. And 4 months into running, I go and get my yearly biometric screening. And for the first time in my adult life, my blood pressure was like low 100s over 67, I think. And I was shocked. Like, this isn't just those incremental gains that we think about, but this was dramatic. And then also, I've been somebody who probably most of my life has struggled with depression, and I noticed that there was this pretty substantial impact that running had on just the way I felt, my general feeling of how life was going and how I was doing. And that's great, right? That in and of itself is probably reason to consider running, to consider putting in the work. But I think if I would have just stayed there, it would have, at the end of the day, been something more superficial. It's great to consider how you can achieve something athletically. It's great to improve your health. But as I ran, I realized that there was something deeper going on, that I was experiencing a joy I hadn't known before. And that might sound kind of silly or cliche, but for me, I look at the Eric Little quote. Eric Little, the great Olympic gold medalist, widely known, universally known as a man of conviction, a man of integrity, very humble. And he once said something along the lines of, I know that God made me for a reason. And what's he doing there? He's admitting that he knows that there is more to his life than winning medals, than running at a certain pace on a certain course for a certain distance, that there was more to life than running itself. He was made for a purpose. But he follows up that statement with but he also made me fast. And when I run, I feel his pleasure. And for me, that is profound. It's it's realizing that any pursuit that makes us feel better, whether we're feeling better because we're accomplishing things, we have a sense of, oh, I've accomplished this. There's this gratifying sense of I'm achieving something, I'm being recognized, maybe. And that's not a bad thing. Something a little bit deeper along the lines of health and wellness. Those aren't bad things either. They're good things. But what I've discovered as I've ran is that I'm doing something that I was created to do. What I'm doing is not at a dissonance with some greater purpose in life. What I'm doing brings me great joy, but it's also bigger than me. I think about running and why I run. And I have, again, these more superficial reasons, but the overarching reason is because I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm doing something that's in harmony with how I was created. And I also have this deep conviction that I can help others find that same sense of purpose, that same sense of joy, and stepping outside of themselves. I think ultimately it is gratifying to do well. It's gratifying to feel better. But but that's still at some level superficial, at some level pretty self-centered. And I found so much more contentment by realizing that it's all bigger than me, that I can also help others. And there's a freedom in that, there's a comfort in that, in sort of drifting into the background and just experiencing the joy of running. So that's my poor attempt at articulating why I run. I don't pretend that I have all the answers. I don't even think I have many answers. But I would like to invite you along in this journey. And I want to ask you, why run? Why do you run? Why do you want to run? Why is running interesting to you? Please feel free to comment below. Again, this is my first video. I don't anticipate much of a discussion, but it'd be great if we could have one. So thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Take care, y'all.